Hi guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a story time video all about how I got kicked out of my ex-boyfriend's house. Now this story happened a few years ago. It was honestly about 3 to 4 months before I became injured. So this kind of gives you a timeline of when the story happened. If you haven't seen my last story time video, I will leave it in the comments below, but make sure you go check that out because it will kind of have a little bit of background story about this. They kind of go hand in hand because the guy that was mentioned in my last story time video will also be mentioned in this storytime video. So if you rewind and watch those, maybe it'll make a little bit more sense. Now we're gonna call my ex-boyfriend, we're gonna call him Adam. I had been dating Adam for about a year. Maybe not exactly a year, but it was closer to a year. I don't remember exactly. Adam lived about 45 minutes to an hour away from where I was living and going to school, and I had moved out of my parents' house at this point, so I was paying to rent a house with another person, but I was staying at Adam's all the time because he lived so far away, and his friends eventually became my friends, so I was always over in the other town where Adam lived because I was spending a lot of time with him, and I was really paying money for a house that I was never living in, and I was paying money back and forth for gas, so there went my entire paycheck really. And so I decided after probably about 8 to 9 months of dating Adam that I was going to move in with Adam. Now a key point to the story is that Adam lived with his father, and Adam was a couple years older than me. I don't remember how old he is. I could probably check if I wanted to, but it's really not that important to the story. But he was older than me, probably like 24 maybe, I don't know. But he lived in his dad's basement, and so for some reason I thought this was a great idea to move in with this man. So I did. I transferred jobs. I worked at a job where I could transfer at this point, and so I transferred to the store where he lived. And I started to really hate this job because it was a lot bigger store and nobody knew who I was, and I just wasn't comfortable working there. I wasn't really getting paid a lot of money because the wages had changed because he actually lived in a different state, so there was a wage difference. And so I decided to start looking for another job. I started working for a phone company. I don't know if I'm going to say it because I don't know if I'm like legal obligations, but I started working for a phone company where I was doing like answering phone calls and like taking customer calls and stuff. And while I was working there, I started working with a friend who was Gregory, which I mentioned in my last storytime video. And at this point in the story, Gregory and I were just really good friends. We were texting a lot, and when we started working, we were spending a lot more time together because we were working like 8-hour shifts together. And then one day we had to have like an attire, even though nobody saw us. We worked in like a call center, but we had to have a dress code. And so Gregory said, "Hey, would you like to go to Goodwill with me afterwards to look for some shirts for us to wear?" And I was like, sure, that'll be fine. Well, I had wrecked my first car. I had wrecked my Mazda, and I was in the process of buying the Blazer, which is the car that I wrecked in and became paralyzed in. And so at this time I was borrowing my sister's car, and so I had met Gregory at a Goodwill, and right before I left to go to Goodwill, Adam had saw me getting ready to go to work because I had to go to work after Goodwill, and asked what I was doing. And I said, oh, well, Gregory asked me to go to Goodwill because we're gonna pick up a couple shirts before we go to work because we have to have a dress code. And Adam became very, very angry at this. Like, Adam was very, very, very mad at me. I went ahead and went anyway because at this point I was just being spiteful, and I realized that I made a lot of mistakes in this, but I went because I was sick of getting yelled at and I wasn't going to be told what I could and couldn't do. So I went and I met Gregory at Goodwill, and Gregory and I had searched at one Goodwill and there wasn't any shirts there, so Gregory said, would you like to go with me in my car and go to the other Goodwill across town? And I said, sure, that would be fine. You know, I am borrowing my sister's car. It would be helpful if I just rode with you. I didn't think anything about this. Well, Adam surprised me by showing up at Goodwill, and he saw that my car was there but I was not there, and he didn't know what Gregory drove, so he continually called me and called me and called me. And because Adam and I had this big blowout fight before I left to Goodwill, I wasn't answering. Adam had called me and texted me several times asking where I was, what I was doing, who I was with, and accusing me of a lot of really bad things. And so I just said, oh, Gregory and I have went to the other Goodwill. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go to work. Well, that night when I came home, I had told both Gregory and Adam to not talk to me, to not text me, to just kind of let me be, because I really needed some time to just pray and really focus on what I wanted out of the relationship, because Adam and I's relationship was failing drastically. We were fighting a lot, and it was starting to get to the point where I was not happy anymore. And I did start developing feelings for Gregory, and so I needed to decide what I needed to do. And so I had taken some time that night after work to just go out and drive and kind of pray and try to clear my mind without talking to either one of them. And I had came home to Adam's house probably around like 2 or 2:30 at night, and I had came down and Adam was awake. And I had just lay down on the bed because, you know, I was still living with him, and I said, you don't need to talk to me, you don't need to tell me anything. I just need to go to sleep and we'll talk about this in the morning. Just, you know, give me a little bit more time. And Adam had rolled over and he said, it's completely fine, you know, take your time. I'm not going to be angry. Well, he had rolled over and then he said, you know what? F it. He got up and he was very, very, very angry at me, and he was yelling at me, and I was like, you know what, Adam, just take the house key. I will go find somewhere to stay for the night, and I will come back tomorrow and we will talk about this, because there's no point in us trying to hash out these feelings at 2:30 in the morning when you're angry and I'm really tired and, you know, really emotional. And so I had started to leave and I had started to get into my sister's car, and Adam had came upstairs and started throwing my stuff outside into the apartment complex yard. And this was probably 2:30, 3 in the morning, like I said, and Adam is yelling at me. He's calling me a slut, a whore, and I'm freaking out because at this point I didn't have anywhere else to go because I wasn't really close with my family at this point in my life. My dad was a truck driver, so he was never home, and I didn't really have anyone else to call, so I called Gregory. And I was like, Gregory, I have nowhere to go. Adam is throwing my stuff out on the yard. He's throwing stuff at me in my car, and I don't know what to do, and I'm really scared. And so Adam started yelling, go ahead and call your boyfriend, have him come save you now. And so, like, he's just chucking everything out in my yard. His dad came up at this point, is helping him throw my stuff out, and I'm feeling so scared and so nervous. So I start picking up the stuff and trying to put it in my sister's car. My sister's car wasn't that big, and he just kept throwing stuff outside while I'm trying to, like, put it in my car. And I'm like, can you please just stop? Just please let me come back and get my stuff later. I don't have any more room in this, and if you leave it outside, it's gonna get stolen. I don't remember how it ended, but I ended up meeting up with Gregory, and we ended up staying in a Kroger parking lot that night because I had nowhere else to go. And he was living with his grandma, so he wasn't gonna just bring some random girl home and be like, hey grandma, I picked up this girl, she's homeless, you know? So I stayed in Kroger parking lot for a couple of days because my ego was kind of hurt and I didn't want to call my family, but I ended up getting my stuff, and I did end up dating Gregory. I realize now that I did make a mistake by possibly talking to Gregory and letting the feelings develop while I was there. That was wrong of me, but it was wrong of Adam to throw my stuff out when he knew that I had nowhere else to go and to kick me out like that. So this is just kind of like a lesson to you guys. One, do not ever move in with somebody, and make sure you put, if you do, make sure you put your name on the lease. I'm not saying that I think moving out with somebody is a bad idea, because I'm really thankful that I did move out with Adam, because I think that the relationship probably would have gone on longer had I not moved in with him. My suggestion is, if you move out with somebody, make sure, one, that your name is on the lease so that they can't legally just kick you out, because I had no ties to that house. It was Adam's and his father's. My name was not on the lease at all. So make sure your name is on the lease. I would say make sure that you trust them, but I trusted Adam with every fiber of my being. I never in a million years thought he would do that to me, and he said a lot of hurtful things about me. I mean a lot of hurtful things about me during my accident, and told me that it was karma for the things I did to him and that I had it coming. And so he just wasn't a good person, but I never would have saw those things for him. I really did trust him, so I don't think that saying trust somebody to move with them is a good idea, because a lot of things change when you move in together. So just make sure that your name is on the lease and that you are legally allowed to be in the house, and that there's no way that they can kick you out, because it was miserable being kicked out like that. I'm thankful that my family did come to my rescue, and they were able to help me get all my stuff together, and I was able to move back in with my father before I had my accident. It was a huge wake-up call for me, and I'm thankful that I learned, even though I had to learn the hard way, but I learned now, and that will never happen to me again because I learned from that mistake. So hopefully you guys can learn from my mistake as well. If you guys like storytime videos, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comments below letting me know what you thought. I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye guys.